Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a quite interesting show set up for you. Yeah, we're going to talk about SEC Power Rankings. There's a new one out. We're going to talk about who's set, who's in trouble. And this is going to be pretty interesting because really the SEC, I've never seen it spread out quite this much to where it's kind of equal in many aspects. In the past, especially the last decade or two, you've had one or two or three teams that were just clearly cut and dry better than everybody else. That was typically Alabama and Georgia and usually one other. I remember LSU one year. But this year, kind of like last year, there's a lot of teams that are kind of, I don't want to use the term wide open, but it's the most wide open we've ever seen it. And this was done by USA Today, and they started out with the number 16 team being Mississippi State, and they had just kind of a really rough year last year. Jeff Levy's trying to get his feet underneath him there in Mississippi State, and it's didn't go so well. He's a very good offensive-minded coach. He's got to figure out some way to get some W's, though. You can't go 2-10 very long in the SEC before they'll just give you a paycheck and show you the door. So Mississippi State, 16. All right, poor old Kentucky, man, I tell you. Mark Stoops, who's done a good job there, it's really been a struggle for him. This last year was awful. The fan base really turned on him pretty significantly. And he is not a guy that really can handle that. He's got a bit of a thin skin. If you've watched him, you know how he is. And he's brought in a quarterback, this Zach Calzada guy, who is from Incarnate Word.
What?
I don't know. I don't feel good about Kentucky this next year. They lost a couple of really, really good players, and they're bringing in this dude from a very small school. This could be a rough year for Kentucky, and if not for his buyout, he would be on the hottest of hot seats right now. All right, number 14, Arkansas. This is a coach situation that I thought he'd already be gone. Sam Pittman, I thought he'd be gone last year, but I think the VOLS kind of saved him. They wound up having an okay year. I like Taylor Green. I tell you, he's a heck of an athlete. He's a very good quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up being one of the better QBs out there, and he might keep Sam Pittman going. I thought Bobby Petrino was the coach in waiting, but they won enough games to keep everything squared away, and nobody wants to fire a coach right now because they don't have the money to just throw away the way they used to. There's just too much going on with the House versus NCAA. So a lot of coaches are going to get a much longer leash. All right, number 13, Vanderbilt. I tell you what, ever since Diego Pavia showed up, it's been fun. I've enjoyed watching Vanderbilt. Watching them beat Auburn and Alabama last year just shocked the crap out of me. Nobody believed that was going to happen. I remember how many texts and phone calls I was getting during the whole Alabama-Vanderbilt game. It's like, this could happen. I was like, no, Bama will come back. This is just a mirage.
Wrong.
Wrong. It was not a mirage. And Diego's the real deal. All right, number 12, Missouri, man, that's got them. I figured Missouri would be a little higher than that. I think a lot of people think Brady Cook was sort of keeping that team rolling. And, of course, they lost their defensive coordinator to LSU a year ago. This could be a pullback year. But Eli's had a nice run, so if he does go like 6-6 or something like that, he'd be okay. His schedule's not too tough, so he might be all right. He brought in a big-time quarterback from Penn State they paid over $1 million for. We'll see how he turns out. But, look, Brady Cook was special. He was a winner.
Yep. We stand on business, Josh.
All right, number 11, Oklahoma. This is a very important year for Brent Venables. Oklahoma's a blue blood. They're used to winning. And last year was sort of an eye-opener for them in the SEC. It's just tougher here. It just is. They brought in a big-time quarterback, John Mateer, out of Washington State. They're spending the money. We'll see how this plays out for him. He needs to have a better year. If he goes 6-6, and that'd not be good. I think they'd probably hold off another year before letting him go, but he'd better start winning. All right, number 10, South Carolina. I think they should be ranked higher than 10th in the SEC. I really like Lenore Sellers and Shane Beamer, who was Coach of the Year last year. Oh, God.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
Coach of the Year. And I got to live with that. Anyway, they got Dylan Stewart on the other side of the ball. They got a 5-star wide receiver that if he can focus on playing football instead of being a track guy, he might really show out. South Carolina's a tough team. They got to replace some players in the defense. That's important because they were great on defense last year. I would not have them 10th. I would have them higher than that. All right, number 9, Texas A&M. This will not sit well with the Aggies, I can tell you. They are so sick and tired of being 8-4, 8-4. I mean, that's the thing that got Jimbo fired.
This man is a coward. Coward. Say it with your chest.
They brought in Mike Elko and paid $76 million to Jimbo to go away. And first year, Elko went 8-4. Even though the team had an opportunity to get into the playoff, they just couldn't pull it off. I like Mike Elko. I think he's a very good coach. They need to have some patience with him, and I think they'll be all right. But they've got them number 9, so they're not believing it. All right, number 8 is Auburn and Hugh Freeze. They've got the talent to easily be in the top half of the SEC, no doubt. But they've been sticking with Peyton Thorne that first couple of years, which was not a good move. They needed to go out and get a quarterback. They went and got Jackson Arnold, the 5-star that got benched over at Oklahoma. Really, they've got the right guy there in Deuce Knight. He's just going to be a true freshman, though, but I think he'll take over towards the end of the year. Hugh needs to win. Hugh is the one guy they could afford to fire because it'd be like a $12 million payoff, which I know that's a ton of money, but in 2025, that's a doable number for Auburn. They got that Yellowwood money. But anyway, they've got them at number 8. They got a ton of talent. They could surprise if they get the quarterback position figured out. All right, Mississippi at number 7. Surprised they're not higher. Lane Kiffin has done a great job there. There's just no question whether you like Lane or not. He gets the W's. And Ole Miss is very happy. I can promise you they're thrilled with having the wins they're getting. He's got to replace Jackson Dart. That's not going to be easy. Austin Simmons, left-handed dude.
They ought to outlaw southpaws.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Now look.
He's looked pretty good the little bit we got to see him, but I don't know. Kiffin's a QB whisperer, though. Everybody knows it. Number 7, I think I'd have them a little higher, but that's not too bad. All right, now here's a team that really wound up having a good year last year, even though they had the toughest schedule you've ever seen. It was brutal. But they won 8 ball games, and DJ Lagway's for real. I mean, that dude, even with a bum hamstring, played really well, and that team plays different with him. I'm telling you, he owns that locker room, and guys trust him. And he's a true freshman, be a sophomore this year. So I have no problem with them being at number 6. This is an improved team. And Billy Napier, I told you my biggest fear is him being coach of the year this year. I don't think I can handle that, especially when they were getting ready to fire him every year since he's been there. But anyway, got him at 6. All right, number 5. This won't sit well with the Alabama folks. They got Kalen DeBoer. They were ready for Jalen Milroe to go. They've got 3 possibilities at quarterback. Ty Simpson, who will probably get the first start. Then they got a 5-star that came in. They got the guy from Washington who was a high 4-star. They got great options there for quarterback. They need somebody that fits Kalen DeBoer's offense. I think these guys, all 3 of these guys will. For us SEC folks, Ryan Grubb connecting with Kalen DeBoer, getting him back in the fold, that could be difficult for the rest of the SEC. Look for that team to be potent.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup.
You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yup. We'll see how it plays out. But they got them at number 5, and Alabama's not happy being at 5th, I promise you. All right, number 4, Tennessee. I think that's pretty fair. Nico Iamaleava, he's the key to the offense, obviously, the quarterback, who will now be in his 2nd season of actually playing. He'd be a redshirt sophomore. He's 6'6". He's growing into his body. He's going to be probably 225, 230 when he starts this year. That'll be much better. You saw him improve throughout the year. His ability to run is going to help him a ton. And usually these really tall guys, they take a little longer to come along because they're a little bit gangly. But once they get it figured out, they can be a nightmare because they can see over the line so well. And he's really fast for his height.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
So I have no problem with them being number 4 if they continue with the defense the way it's improved and can play at the level they did last year. They should be fine. Number 3, LSU. I'm a little surprised by this. Garrett Nussmeier is a fine quarterback, and he's going to put up gaudy numbers. He does not have the ability to run very well, and that usually creaks you and costs you some ball games. That's why I would not have them third. They got plenty of talent. They always do. Louisiana, you got the whole state to yourself as far as recruiting, although with NIL, that's kind of changed things. Brian Kelly's been a bit of an underachiever down there. He left Notre Dame because they couldn't get to the big game. They started spending NIL there. That changed everything. I would not have them third, but that's me. Number 2 is Georgia. I'm fine with them at number 2 or number 1. They're a great team. They got a great coach. Carson Beck left. I think Carson was a very good quarterback, although people didn't like him. Gunnar Stockton's replacing him. We'll see how Gunnar does. He got thrown into the fire. It's really hard to judge a guy given those circumstances. He actually looked pretty good. He'll probably be fine. And, of course, they'll have, they got good quarterbacks behind him, but this is more of a defensive team anyway. Kirby's all about limiting your your opportunities to score. I'm fine with them at number 2. They could be number 1. And lastly, we've got Texas, who lost twice to Georgia last year, by the way. Arch Manning's replacing Quinn Ewers. Arch could be fantastic. He really could. He played well the limited time that he had. I expect him to play really well, and he can run. So look for Texas to be great. They spend a ton of money on NIL. Nobody spends like they do, really. Maybe Oregon.
Haven't you noticed? You got to be a man to play in my league.
So expect them to be loaded everywhere, 5 stars everywhere you can look. Having them number 1 is pretty safe bet. I probably would have put Georgia number 1, though, because they whooped them twice. But anyway, there you go. There's your SEC power rankings. And it's always good in the offseason to go down this list to kind of see what people think. This is a decent list. There's a few things I would have probably lowered LSU. I'd have probably raised a couple of teams like Ole Miss maybe. But we'll see how it plays out. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, hit that button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here's a video YouTube thinks you'll really enjoy. Be sure to check that out. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.